Welcome to Future Ready Live, where we talk about topics that will help CPAs, CGMAs, and their organizations prepare to adapt and thrive in a fast changing world. I'm your host, Tom Hood, the EVP of Business Engagement and Growth at the AICPA SEMA, the largest global body of professionally certified accountants in the world. Today, we're going to be talking about a super hot topic: generative AI, aka ChatGPT, for CFOs, with Glenn Hopper, the author of the ebook Application of ChatGPT to Build an FP&A Tool, and the author of the book Deep Finance, Corporate Finance in the Information Age. So joining me today is Glenn Hooper. Say hello to everybody, Glenn.
Hey, Tom, glad to be here.
It's awesome to have you, by the way. Glenn is a former Navy journalist, a filmmaker, business founder. He spent the last 2 decades helping startups transition to operate at scale and prepare for funding and/or acquisition. He's passionate about transforming the role of chief financial officer from historical reporter to forward-looking strategist. He served as a finance leader in a variety of industries, including telecommunications, retail, internet, and legal technology. He has a master's degree in finance with a graduate certificate in business analytics from Harvard University, a master's in business administration from Regis University. He's married with 3 children, 2 golden doodles, and a neurotic cat. Glenn's also a member of the American Mensa and volunteers his time for the Analytics Foundation. So, Glenn, once again, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I'm really glad to be here. And I think, as far as your audience knows, we could be like AI generated avatars. Maybe this isn't even really, you and I are sitting on the beach drinking margaritas and just letting the robots do our work.
I love that. That's right. That's what we probably should have had ChatGPT work on. So, but that's the story, right? I met you on LinkedIn right after you did a post about and published your ebook on ChatGPT for FP&A. And I immediately knew I had to talk to this guy. So let's talk about that. You did a routine to kind of create this application for FP&A, hot thing for CFOs right now. And so what made you write and publish that? And then let's talk about what you learned. Like, what are the tools and what does this ChatGPT mean for CFOs and us finance and accounting pros?
Yeah, so I guess bidden or unbidden, I've been on this mission to get finance and accounting professionals to improve not only their finance tech stacks, but also their tech knowledge and abilities. And we've been watching for years, and this is maybe cliche at this point. It's kind of like saying digital transformation. Everybody thinks, haven't we been transforming for 30 years now? But I've been on this mission that it's moving at a pace that we have to be paying attention and we have to be moving forward and keeping up with it, or we're going to get left behind. And it's moving so fast that the ask of not just finance and accounting, but really all professions, you have to understand it to keep up with it. So I've been a data evangelist and a machine learning evangelist for several years. That's what led to the book. But when ChatGPT came out, I could see, a lot of us could early on, this is going to be revolutionary. And in the first days and weeks after its release, the early adopters who were in there messing around with it, there were a lot of posts on social media and people talking about sort of prompt engineering and how you can get the best answers from ChatGPT. And that's interesting and will remain interesting and get more interesting. But these are just quick. It's like typing in a web search. It's just type in a question, get a response. And realizing the power of this tool, I thought, I want to do something a little meatier and show how you could use this in a real world application, not just asking general questions or, specific questions even, but I wanted to take on a project using ChatGPT. So my idea, once I heard that ChatGPT could write code, I thought, well, let's see how good the code is, because I know, and I've been in startups and small businesses, and in businesses at this stage and at this size, you typically don't have the resources to really have the full finance tech stack you want, whether it's buying or building something. So you have to scrape and get by and figure out ways around things. So I went in as if I had no resources in business, but wanted to automate some parts of my job. So thinking, okay, what do I look at? I look at financial statements. So I created 3 years of fictional financial statements and just put them, threw them into a CSV and thought, I wonder if ChatGPT can write code that will let me take these financial statements, put them in a database, do some basic analysis on the results, and then provide some extra value in that it maybe if it can find something that I as a human might overlook. So I had it write little Python code that would find correlations between different parts of the financial statements. And then at the end, and this was kind of a gimmick, but it ended up pretty cool because I think it gives just an idea of where I see integration of GPT and other AI into our finance and tech stacks. I had it write a little Python script that was basically a natural language chatbot that you could type into your computer and ask questions about the financial statements, just like you'd ask someone on your finance team, and it would spit back an answer. And what I hope with that, and it's a pretty technical read. I mean, it's lines and lines of code. So, it's 30 something pages, but it's mostly code. But the key thing there is I just put these prompts in. I didn't write a single line of that code and it did all this. So, and then at the end to have this chatbot that you're conversing with, what I really hope is that helps capture the imagination of people doing what we do, and that it shows the possibility of not just ChatGPT, but of maybe some thinking of your tech stack a little bit differently.
Now, so like, how long did it take you to just enter those prompts and get that stuff back?
So I was doing this in the first week that ChatGPT was released, and the only delay I had was the demand on ChatGPT was so high it kept crashing. So I think, if ChatGPT had been up and I hadn't been limited on the number of queries, I think the whole project could have been done. Maybe this is overly optimistic. I'd say half a day to a day, but it created all these different tables and it created these key financial ratios. And it was, thinking about, I'm not a coder, but it seems like that's a lot quicker than if I had put in a request to my dev team to build me something like that.
Yeah, it's incredible. And literally you got it to analyze 3 years of financial, and then literally creating a self-service chat bot that you could theoretically deploy in the organization for other people to ask questions about the financials. That's pretty wild for you not having to write any code.
Yeah, I kept thinking, there's no way this is going to work. There's no way this is going to work. But I'd go, and there is, so full disclosure here, there were a couple of errors a couple times in there, and the document was already so long, I didn't put the error tracking. But here's the thing. If there was an error in the code, I would copy the error from Google Colab where the project lived and paste it in ChatGPT, and it would QC its own code. It was amazing. So I intentionally did not write any of the code, let ChatGPT do it, and let it fix its own mistakes. And it was, as I was doing it, I just kept realizing, this is amazing. This is beyond what I expected.
It's crazy. Well, and I just read a piece, I think it's where you were interviewed as well, but I guess it was Fortune, I think, that did a piece on it that said they got ChatGPT, the new version 4.0, which I've been playing with. They got that to ingest the whole IRS tax code and be able to analyze a married couple's financial situation and compute their taxes without any software.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you think about things like that businesses have to do, your compliance, your filings, your taxes. I don't know. It may be a while before I'm trusting a computer to do my taxes, but it's actually that, and that's actually a good point. I don't even know with ChatGPT if we're at the trust but verify stage. Don't get me wrong. I think we'll be there soon, but anything that comes out of ChatGPT, I'm reading with a grain of salt because
Yeah.
it's still, it's still being developed. It's a toddler at this point, a
Correct.
very smart toddler.
It's a very smart toddler that's growing up very, very fast. That's the other side of it, right? I mean, literally, it's only been around for a couple of weeks or maybe a month or two, but it's to be able to pull in the whole tax code like that and be able to make sense of it. I mean, there's humans that have been doing taxes for 20 years that still can't do that. I mean, it's just amazing. So that's just scratching the surface of how big this impact could be on our entire profession, right? For finance and accounting people, it's just mind-boggling. So, but this ties into also to what you've been saying about this whole point of what the future of finance has in store for all of us, right? So, at AIC Basema, I'm running our Future of Finance Leadership Advisory Group, which we've talked about. And our purpose is to transform the profession by reimagining the future of finance to power, we say, trust, opportunity, and prosperity. Share your vision of what you think that future of finance looks like. I know it's I'm going to talk about your other book, Deep Finance, next, but just share what you think about what should we be thinking about as this ChatGPT era for future of CFOs and finance and accounting pros.
Yeah. So I guess the first thing I would say is look at what's been automated in recent years. And this is not even with AI. This is just systems talking to each other. This is ERPs. This is off-the-shelf software that is solving problems for us. I mean, look at all the functions that we do in accounting and finance departments. First, it was maybe expense reports, automation of that. There's a million tools out there that automate that. Then there's AR and there's AP. I mean, I'm thinking about all these jobs in our profession that are going away. And then, so the short-sighted view is, hey, that's great. And this is not what we say, but we hear it a lot. Oh, well, accounting and finance, that's just a cost center. So we're finding a way to eliminate costs there. And I say this all the time, that is the wrong approach to it. What we need to think about is the job has changed over the years. And if we are finding ways to automate these mindless tasks, data entry, and nobody likes to go enter expense reports in and deal with people sending back broken expense reports and doing your AP and AR stuff. There's things that are pretty easy that free, if you don't have to do that manually, it frees up time. So what the soapbox I've been standing on is we're freed up from doing that. How now can we add more value to the organization? So don't look at finance and accounting like a cost center. Look at it as if this is an investment. We're going to lead transformation in our companies by being able to be more strategic and doing more high order operations. And longer answer here, and we can cut it short. I know we don't have a lot of time, but where I see this evolving is two phrases. They both start with data. One is data driven and the other is data democratization. So what I see with all this automation and with using data to power your business, that I call it, I didn't coin this, but I've stolen it and I use it liberally, but hunch to hypothesis. So you can have an idea of what you want to do in a business, and that's great. People have good instincts, but instead of just following every instinct, what if you then could go back and use data to determine and prove in what your hunch is? And then the data democratization part is, don't just limit decision-making to the corner office, to the C-suite, to the top of the company. If everybody has access to relevant data, think about your frontline people who are in the foxholes, making decisions, making recommendations, but instead of doing it from the foxhole, they've got a view of the entire battlefield and they can make those decisions. And it's, it's like a turbocharged suggestion box when everybody has access to the data and can help drive and make the company better.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Which gets to the whole idea of moving from, we call it hindsight, to strategic foresight, and becoming that value partner, right? The chief future officer, if you will, instead of always looking at the rearview mirror. So it's a freeing up finance. And it reminds me of I'm old enough where I was around when the IBM PC came out and Excel and all those tools started. And there's literally an article in the Wall Street Journal that said Excel is going to be the death of the accounting profession because it's going to automate everything that all the manual crap we used to do. And sure enough, it was the exact opposite, right? Accounting blew up after spreadsheets because now we had more tools to analyze and we could be smarter and help businesses in a much bigger way. So I see this as the same thing, right? On all the things you talked about, all the automation journeys that we've been on are just eliminating all the stuff that, quite frankly, you and I used to hate doing, and freeing us up to do what we were schooled to do, is interpret that financial information in a way that helps the business. So that is the vision. That's what our group with the Future Finance is playing with as well. All right, let's turn to your book on deep finance. I have read it. I love it. I highly recommend it. Here's what ChatGPT said about your book. Let's see if they got it right. They said, Deep Finance, Corporate Finance in the Information Age is a nonfiction book that explores the intersection of artificial intelligence and finance. The book delves into how AI is transforming the financial industry from trading and investing to fraud detection and customer service. It provides insights into the latest AI technologies and their applications in finance, as well as the potential risks and challenges associated with their implementation. What say you about that?
That's actually pretty good. I have not. So, there's ego surfing when you go and Google yourself and see how you come up. I have not considered looking up myself because, when it first came out, the data was only through whatever end of 21 or whatever. And, but that's summarized it. And actually, I'm sort of flattered now. I feel like, out of the billions of documents that ChatGPT read, it appears to have read my book. So I'm looking for my royalties at this point.
I wonder if it paid for your book.
Got it from some Russian hacker website. I don't know.
It's pretty cool though. I was impressed by that, and it is accurate. But I want to kind of segue, because when I read the book, I love the fact that you use the idea of waves of technology shaping our accounting profession. And I use this metaphor all the time that's based on a quote by a philosopher named John Kabat-Zinn, who says, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn how to surf. And I use that in the context of transformation of finance, right? It's like waves of transformation, just like you said, ongoing. It won't ever stop. And the waves are getting bigger and coming faster. And so what we're saying is now we have to start teaching our finance and accounting teams to be able to ride those waves of change. In other words, surf. And then you took that and you added more wisdom, like concepts of the artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data science. So what do you think? Are the waves of transformation getting bigger as we look out the next 5 years?
They really are. And this is why I'm so adamant about talking about this. You don't need to understand how your TV works in order to binge watch The Last of Us. It's a passive thing. It's just coming to you. Who cares how it gets here? It could be getting beamed straight into your head. Doesn't matter. I think about other tools that we don't have to really understand how they work to use them. But, understanding something about how a lever works might be good to know if you're going to be standing under something you're pulling up on a pulley, and AI it's still very alien to most people. And if you don't I'm not saying you have to become, go use TensorFlow and become an AI expert, but to understand what's going on is important, because it is going to play a more active role. Like even tools like Excel that we talked about, you're putting in the data, you're putting in the formulas, you understand what's happening. But if you're just going to type something into your keyboard and push it out to a magic box and then just take the answer that comes back without any forethought or questioning of it, then you're putting things at risk. So by understanding the technology, then you can use it better. It's like going from me trying to fix a fence board, which I'm terrible at, apparently, to what a carpenter does. I mean, there's a big difference. And if we want to keep adding value ourselves and make the best use of this technology that's moving, as you said, we're only a few weeks or months into ChatGPT being available to the public. And, what percentage of the public has an inkling of how it works? So it's moving faster, and it is incumbent on us, if we want to be successful, to understand, at least at a base level, how it works so that we can use it better.
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on with that, and I think the key here is, well, so one other question. So the waves are getting bigger. You're saying that. Are the waves coming faster too? In other words, not only are they getting bigger, but we're getting them in faster cycles. What do you say about that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we've seen it this year, and it's, how quickly it moves. And I think it would be moving even quicker if, groups like OpenAI weren't putting the brakes on this. And we're talking a lot about GPT, but we also have to keep in mind that's just one tiny sliver of the overall AI bubble. It's like AI, machine learning, deep learning, these large language models are just a tiny part of it. We're not even talking about all the other algorithms that are out there and that we're seeing in our everyday life, and they're all changing so quickly.
And it's funny, in my last Future Ready Live with a guy named Josh Burson, who's an HR talent development guy, he said he was looking on LinkedIn like in the last week or two, and the number of jobs that require ChatGPT familiarity have just exploded. It's a matter of weeks, and it's already redefining jobs in finance and accounting, because that's what he looked up. It's just amazing how it's referenced already from that standpoint. So give us a couple words of advice. What can we do to ride these waves better, right? Handle these big waves and the frequency. So what would you say?
Yeah.
What's some tips for us to get started?
So, I mean, I think, and this is going to sound flippant, but maybe not, because every people go here anyway. I start at YouTube and just watch some videos, like look up, what is AI? How, how does it work? What is machine learning? What is a neural network? And just start with just a fundamental understanding there. I'm slightly OCD, so I went over the top with it years ago, and I'm, and there's free courses on Coursera and all these other online platforms, and I chased after a million of them, but I think it's served me well. And I think, so it depends, we're all busy, but we can outsource parts of our job to ChatGPT, so it'll give us more time to study. No, we're all busy, but it's, just like when the new lease rules came out in accounting, you have to study that and you have to learn that. So you're going to take the time to do it. Or if you're pursuing professional certifications, you're going to do that because it forwards your career. This is just as important as that. Yeah. And I would say in the past, maybe you could get away with just a very deep knowledge in finance and accounting, but the world isn't like that anymore. And the roles of finance and accounting leaders are getting broader. So in order to be better at your job, you still have to have that depth. That's the foundation, yeah. But you need to be broader in other business processes, and you need to be broader in your technology understanding. So starting to find ways, and if you really want to dive in, there's some great courses out there. And if you want, we can throw some in the show notes or something, or I can add them to the comment on this if we want to. But there's a bunch of good ones out there that if you really want to
do that, that's right. We'll put them in the show notes. So you're exact. So we gotta dip in, right? We got to start riding the wave, and I think your advice is spot on. I would add to that: try ChatGPT. Get in there and play around with it. It is amazing, and watch what it does, because you give it one question, it gives you something. You go, well, what about adding this to it? And it just keeps going, which is amazing from that standpoint. The other part is, don't miss Glenn and Don Tomoff talking about ChatGPT for CFOs at our Future Finance Summit in Orlando in December 10th through the 12th. We'll put a little thing in the show notes about that. But the other part is, read your book, Deep Finance, on Amazon. You give a great background, and you don't talk about ChatGPT at that stage because it wasn't around when you wrote that, but you certainly talk about AI, machine learning, and the significance of all that. And then we'll put in the show notes the ChatGPT one for FP&A. So you'll have both of those books. Will get you a real good introduction to ChatGPT, AI, and what CFOs and controllers ought to know about all this stuff. So with that, Glenn, thank you so much. I want to say follow Glenn Hopper on LinkedIn. You can get him on Twitter at GHopper3. And yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you, Tom. This is a lot of fun.
All right, for the rest of my audience, we'll be back here on LinkedIn the first and third Tuesday of each month at noon Eastern, and we'll see you then. Thank you all for watching.